Welcome back to Football Daily, ladies and gentlemen. As you can tell, we are back in the new studio. We're going to try and make as much use of this as possible. Zachary Jalab is here.
Bonjour.
Henry Hill is here. How are we, gents?
Very good. Very, very good. Cannot complain.
Oh,
Yeah, good. Nice to not be talking about some European football. Back in the Premier League side of the...
Just like Fulham.
Just like Fulham, yeah. Thank you for that, Sam.
Absolutely. Let's talk about a team that Fulham are above in the Premier League at the moment then, Leicester City. And there are big question marks hanging over the head of Brendan Rodgers. At the moment, at the time of recording, he hasn't lost his job yet, but things are looking pretty dicey, Henners. And the question we're asking today, Rodgers in or Rodgers out?
Oh, it is tough. It is really tough. I think he deserves a few more games. I think he's done enough to deserve that in his time as Leicester boss. I actually think if you look at the squad, it is pretty poor. The question is, I think, whether a new manager coming in would get anything better out of the players currently at his disposal. Bear in mind, he's having to play like Amati at centre-half a lot of the time. I think players like Daka, Pratt, Soumare, these signings haven't really hit the ground running. Is that Rodgers' fault? Is that
Has
a
he
fault of the
integrated them well, though?
Is that a fault of the recruitment?
Boubakary Soumare into that team well?
I think he's had opportunities to play there. He's been learning off Ndidi, etc., who up until this season was one of the standout central defensive midfielders in the Premier League, mooted for other great jobs. Let's not forget, it was only not too long ago Rodgers was being sort of talked about for the United job before the Rangnick kind of move
It wasn't
came
too
in.
long ago at all.
So I think it's not as if he would lose his job and be out of a job. He's a great manager. Someone will pick him up. And if you look at the managers available right now, Adi Huta, sort of Sampaoli, etc., Marco Rosa, these are attacking managers, and I'm not sure that's necessarily what they need right now to steady the ship. I would give him a little bit more time just to prove what he can do, because like I said, teams do go through these periods. What I don't like is some of the negative comments that he's coming out with. Sort of I don't like him basically implying that the team's not good enough. He has spent money, spent 220 million in his time there. Obviously sold players as well, but he has been a bit sold short this window specifically. I would give him a bit more time to figure it out.
1 point from 18 available this season. 5 consecutive L's. The last time Leicester had 5 consecutive L's, Ranieri got chopped.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, he has a lot in the bank with the current ownership. I think they have a very strong relationship with Brendan Rodgers, and it's tough because obviously we give a lot of credit previously for the signings that Leicester made and how great they were, and then of recent times the signings haven't quite worked out. I also think you're seeing a little bit of the old guard now finally leaving. Obviously, we've seen Morgan retire. Jamie Vardy's now kind of getting pushed out of the squad. Schmeichel's left. And so you're seeing a real big spine of that team that obviously are from the 2016 Premier League winners and the FA Cup winners and so on and so forth. Obviously start to leave now, and I think that does leave a hole for new people to step up and take it. And then when you're losing the players like Wesley Fofana, who was that next guy, and I'm pretty sure, I don't think Leicester thought anyone would go and buy Fofana this summer. I think next summer they had the idea of, you know what, he's going to have another Premier League year under his belt. We can see someone paying that price. I think they kind of went into this season thinking Fofana will stay. Obviously, just come back from injury. You know, he only had 1 Premier League season when he was 19. Like, no one's going to go pay the 70, 80 million odd that it is to get him. Obviously, Chelsea did. Then you had the fact that you got Tielemans, who's was basically gagging for a move away, which isn't helpful to then deal with that all throughout the whole summer, having that whole ordeal. Well, then, because also if you think, right, Tielemans is such a key player for them, and Brendan Rodgers week in, week out is trying to think, well, have I got him to play this week? Is he going to be here next week, and so on and so forth. So he's been having to deal with that. Like, as much as I do think Brendan does have to take a decent amount of the blame, I don't think a lot of managers would have found it easy dealing what he's had to been dealt with.
So you two are both on the side of Brendan Rodgers deserves more time at the moment.
I think more time, 100%. I do like the managers that are out there at the moment. I think that could, I think just through a new manager bounce, all that kind of stuff, can maybe see them win a few games. But I do think you'd like to maybe give him the September. Give him September.
This is definitely their biggest challenge, I would suggest, since the sort of end of the Claudio Ranieri reign, right towards that season when people were like, wow, why on earth they sacked Ranieri? And then they did slowly improve again, didn't they? Because they were falling off a cliff. And I have to say, I know that this summer was poor, but the recent recruitment at Leicester, not many players have bedded into his system. And I feel like that is partly down to the fact people don't know what system Leicester are playing. Some weeks it's 2 up top, some weeks it's 1 up top, some weeks it's 5 at the back, then it's 4 at the back. Castagna's in, Castagna's out. So Yunchu's in, then he's not allowed in the squad. And I also kind of agree with some of your statements about some of the comments when, it was only 6 months ago probably that Brendan Rodgers was saying, some of these players, when they went out the cup against Forest, I think it was, some of these players aren't as good as they think they are. But they're all still there. If I was a player and I'd heard my manager say that, I feel like I wouldn't be very confident. Then the system isn't working. Then there's no signings. I think that Brendan Rodgers is in deep, deep trouble here. And I'm not sure he's got much credit in the bank. Yes, with the owners, but with the players.
But I think the owners are the ones that make, at the end of the day, the owners are going to be obviously the ones that make.
But it's the players that get managers out of the club.
As much as I disagree with the idea of him being fired, any other time in this situation, if you're looking at the run of fixtures, you probably would maybe do it now. You probably would look at that and think, we can get 9 points here coming up soon. But I'd also say, if you look at what the owners have been, at Leicester have been saying about the financial situation, the fact they've had to take a step back this summer in terms of heavy investment in the playing squad due to etc. COVID losses and whatnot. I don't know what the expectations are for this season. Maybe even just
survival.
I think survival above anything above 14th. I know that's that's not what Leicester have been used to. But at this point and this current state of play, I think maybe a slight reset is necessary. Does that mean Rodgers has to go? I don't know. I don't think so.
Well, look at the season
the squad worse than. I don't think the squad are like relegation status.
No, not at all. But to be fair, what you say about once the players are against you, or once the players are, or once players are kind of not willing to play for the manager anymore, that can make it much, much tougher to have your plan work out on the pitch. And they, if anything, maybe you conceding for them is like, great, another reason why he might go and get sacked. I'm not one for advocating for sackings. I think it's a hard thing to go out and just say that man should be sacked. But I do think if you're kind of pitching this project to other managers and saying, look, for this year, you're not really going to have any money. Who knows what the financial state of play is going to be next year when they're already reporting £117 million loss. Like, that doesn't feel like next summer's going to be a big budget either.
The squad does need to clear out as well. There's way too many players in it. There was way too many players in it last season. 100%. They couldn't register non-police Mendy. It's the same situation now where they've got a massively bloated squad alongside FFP. They needed to clear out Deadwood. They failed to. And the fees they got for players, yes, Wesley Fofana, are basically going to have to go into writing off those massive losses they've experienced because of COVID.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. If you're saying this to a new manager, and being like, hey, this is what you got to deal with, like, that's not the best things to come into. And you're right. Like, I think I actually look at that squad last season compared to now, and it is a downgrade. Danny Ward has started the season poorly, does not look to be up to standard. Obviously, they've lost Wesley Fofana. I don't really know enough about Wout Faes.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest,
as to whether he's good enough.
Really untested. Had a couple of good seasons with Rance, but in principle, I don't think he's anywhere near the level that we saw from Fofana.
Johnny Evans is another year older.
I will just say they were unlucky against United in many ways. They put up a good fight, and I think they just ran into a Brighton that were just on it that day. They were just scoring goals for fun all over the pitch. So I think those two results were slightly kind of warping the problems. It's created that kind of panic now, which...
And Brendan Rodgers' comments have not helped with that situation. Even their comments recently about, like, at the weekend saying that the squad's not improved and stuff like that, I just don't think is helping all the players' cause right now.
Yeah, I mean, whenever your manager's coming out and basically having negative comments about his own players 6 games into the beginning of the Premier League.
But it is going to cost him an awful lot to sack Brendan Rodgers at this stage.
Yes.
Reportedly a 10-figure fee to sack him. He is on a long contract. And whether or not they can find someone better remains to be seen. But these guys are both Brendan Rodgers in.
For
what
now.
Are you guys at home? Are you Brendan Rodgers in? Are you Brendan Rodgers out? Let us know in the comments below.